up, everybody, and welcome back to the Virzi Effect podcast show. My name is Paul Virzi, and you guys are listening to episode 597 again. And the reason I say that, I'm just going to get into this real quick. I have another amazing guest on the show this week. We are in studio in New York. I'm glad you guys liked the last solo. I did another solo episode for last week, and I had an update on the time traveler. I had the sickest text message from somebody about the time traveler because he has popped up again. Somebody who heard it on Tiger Belly. And your great host, Paul Virzi here, hits the mute button 3 minutes in, and I talked to nobody for an hour. So we might even put a funny clip up of me getting into it and then actually slow-moing the hit of the thing. And I found out afterwards that you could actually block your mic from doing that. So anyway, that's a whole other story, guys. I am back in studio with another great guest, as I always have, because you don't come into this room unless you're doing your fucking thing in the entertainment world. Because I'll have an actor in here, but more comedy. Mike Feeney, everybody.
Appreciate
Mike Feeney
it.
is here.
Thanks for having me, man.
Of course, man. No worries. You have a couple of new things going on.
Yeah.
You got a new special.
New special is what is the newest of all of the things. Yeah, brand new special.
And a new baby.
And a new baby. And less new, but still a year old. So it's still fun. I'm getting pictures from daycare right now. I'm 4 days into daycare. Do you ever do daycare
we did
situation?
Daycare, yeah.
Dude, everybody's like, oh, it's gonna be a nightmare when you drop him off. The first day we dropped him off, he literally just started playing with toys, didn't even know we were gone. And we're like, that's even more crushing that he didn't react to us, like being like, no. But every day since then, yesterday especially, it's been like death grip on me, not wanting to go. And then they go, well, he's gonna cry when you drop him off, but when you pick him up, he'll be happy to see you. When I pick him up, he sees me and then remembers like, oh yeah, you fucking left me here, and then he starts crying again. So now he's crying when I drop him off, and he's crying when I pick him up. The only time he's not crying is like 10 minutes after I leave. So it's so that's something I'm working through right now.
Yeah, that's gonna happen. You're also gonna get another thing that's gonna happen with daycare is you and your wife are gonna get sick.
A lot. That's what I've heard. Just get sick all the time.
They're bringing germs home, but there will come a time where they are really psyched to be there. It's gonna take some time. One is like so.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. You guys are dropping them off real young.
Yeah, well, dude, there's ones they have infant rooms that are 6 weeks old. There's people 6 weeks old that have like their little rooms in there, and you're like, that's crazy. Because someone told me if you start at 18 months, then they start becoming too attached to you, and they don't want to go to daycare.
I mean, I don't want to piss anybody off listening to this. You're dropping your kid off 6 weeks into daycare. You didn't want to be a parent.
Yeah, you're not even.
You're like 6 weeks.
Not even giving it the old college try.
I mean, can we get grandma, grandpa in here for?
Yeah. Do you know anyone? Do you have any friends, any family?
Anybody that is close to you will watch them for a couple, dude. 6 weeks. We did 3. What did we do? We did 2.5 years and 2 years.
Okay.
We were 2.5. It's really good for them to interact. The nice thing is, and it's a boy, right?
Yeah.
He's going to really be good with kids.
Yeah, he every time he sees another baby, he's like, "What are you? And why are you looking like me?" You know. And because it's in New York City, it's like a UN meeting. He's like seeing there's literally like every single color, creed, everything in the room, which is kind of cool too. You want them to, you know what I mean? You don't want it to be your kid be 7 and then see his first like black person. He's like, "What the fuck?" You know. So it's nice to build that in early.
But we do have to get him out of the city soon, right?
Yeah. Gotta get out. Absolutely gotta get out. Unmitigated nightmare.
You gotta get. Now your wife works?
Yes, she does. So but she does remote 3 days a week. So then she gets the other 2 off. So it's like a kind of, and she works 9 to 5 and I'm night. So it's like we kind of have a nice opposite schedule.
Dude, you sound like everything that I went through, man. It's like you have the here's the nice thing. She's not in show business, right?
Not at all.
See, there you go.
And wants nothing to do with it.
And that's why you're going to be happy. And that's why you guys are still together.
Yeah.
And that's why things are going good.
Yeah.
You know, you're not competing for who's getting a late night spot who's getting a midnight spot somewhere.
I can't imagine. I mean, there are, Bonnie and Rich, there are couples who are comedians who are, it works, but it seems like such a nightmare because, again, it's constantly, I mean, you want to talk about like compare and despair. It's like literally like, all right, I got nothing for the next 3 days. And you're like, I got 12 spots the next 3 days. And instantly you can't help but be like, fuck, what am I going to, or people you know, if we were married, right? Like people hitting me up to be like, hey, can you ask Paul if he wants to do this without asking me? You know what I mean? Or those kinds of things.
It's so much, dude. It's so much. And like you said, it's only natural to be competitive.
Sure.
You know, and not even like I think unless you're in different parts of your career. Like if somebody's been doing it 20 and then they started dating somebody that's been doing it 5, but then what happens if that person is doing it 5? All of a sudden they're like, hey, Netflix wants to give me a 3 special deal.
Do you want to open for me? yeah.
And then there's, dude, you did it right. You have somebody that's not in the business. And again, not if people can make it work, maybe I'm being the insecure one. I don't know, but I've heard too many nightmare stories where I'm just like, that's what's the saying? 1 headshot per family?
Oh, I didn't know that, but that's amazing.
How great is that? Yeah. 1 headshot per family is what they say. But no, you got the kid, you got the stability with the 9 to 5 wife at home.
Yeah.
You go out, you hand off the baton, then you go do your shit at night, dude. You are in. A lot of people have this misconception, and I've talked about it before on the show. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but families do not hurt it. Babies do not hurt it. If anything, I think it gives you a life experience as a human and a man and a father and a husband to just evolve, and then you bring that on stage without even knowing it.
I mean, 100%. I also feel like I've realized in this last year is that it makes you so laser focused just by pure, like, no other option, that all of the bullshit of the side, like, oh, what's this person doing? What's this person doing? You don't even have the bandwidth to pretend to care about it, let alone to act like. Whereas before, you have a kid, you had extra time, you're like, oh, fuck, that guy's doing that thing. I should be doing one of these. I should be doing. It's like, hey, this is what all I have time to focus on, so that's all I'm going to do.
And that distraction is good because the thing that you're thinking of, this guy's doing that and this guy's doing that, you're going to get to a point where you realize that, like, you want to do your own path and that doesn't matter.
Yeah. Like and having the kid also makes you realize how little this matters. You know what I mean? Where you're like, which everybody says, and it sounds so cliche, but legitimately, it's like, you go, oh, this is not, like, it kind of makes you, it makes me like less nervous about any sort of, if I have a big gig or anything, I'm like, yeah, if this doesn't work out, I got the kid. Those things are great.
That's all you need. That's it. What you just said is it. It's like, nothing matters. Like, you know, when you're coming up, you're like, I got to get past in that room.
Right.
I got to make that booker who means nothing and has never done stand-up like me.
Yeah.
And if they don't, I'm going to not get in that room and I'm going to feel less of a... It's like the craziest mental illness. And then all of a sudden you have a little boy who, like, his whole life is you and your whole life is getting that person to grow up and be raised as a good person. And it's like, I care what fucking... Somebody who gets hit by a bus tomorrow will be replaced like that.
Yeah. Well, I was worried like that because I've heard that before having the kid, and I was worried that would mean that I wouldn't be driven anymore with my career. But it's not that. It's just like, it's a different thing where you just go, there's less like emotional stakes of like, oh God, if this doesn't work out, you know what I mean? Where you're like, it's going to be fine. It's like, you know, when you have the parachute, you know what I mean? At all times.
Yeah. Stacey said that she felt like when Lucas was born, she felt she saw something. I think it was the same time as I started to get more gigs and start to get better. But yeah, man, what happens is you're like, oh shit, like this is not, you know, you can't lay on the couch and drink and smoke weed and then just hand a baby off and go do an open mic and make, you know, like you got to fucking figure it out. But you've been doing it how long now?
My first set was 2007, so I guess, but really 2008 was when I started in New York City. So I mean, we're talking over 15 years at this point.
Right. So what you did is a smart thing, and here's why. The first hour that I ever put out, because I've been doing comedy now a little over 20. The first hour that I ever put out was Night at the Stand, and I believe that was in 2015 for the New York. Yeah, it was the New York Comedy Festival. I just did a show at the Stand, and we taped it, and it was 14 years into my career.
Right.
And that stands up today. It's still funny today. I mean, of course, I'm obviously a way better comedian now than I was then, but I'm 14 years in. Like, when I hear people go, yeah, I'm doing my third album, and you're like, how long you been doing it? He's like, I've been like 6 years.
Yeah. And you're like, go ahead and get rid of those first 2, and then the one you're about to record.
Yeah, can you call iTunes and have that erased from me?
Yeah. Well, that's a scary thing. Yeah, so this is like the second thing. The first one I put out was in late 2019, so just a few, right, like literally, and I got lucky because before
the pandemic,
I wanted to film it too, and this was, you know, it was only going to be an album, and then I was like, let me film. I wanted to like make it a nice, because I was thinking about maybe clips or something like that, and I released it as a special, like legitimately a week into the pandemic, which at the time no one knew was going to be a thing, which ended up, it's funny because you look back and like retrospect, because at the time, you know, it blew up and the clips went crazy, and I was so resentful at the pandemic because all these clips are doing so well, and for the first time in my life, all these new followers, all these people like, when you come to Chicago, when you come to Toronto, and I'm like, of course it happens, and like I've started to blow up the second the fucking world ends, but. Obviously, in retrospect, it's like, had it not been for the pandemic, I wouldn't have gotten all those views because everyone was home, everyone had nothing to do.
Yep.
So it was actually like the best, you know, it was the exact opposite of what I thought at the time.
The pandemic was great for comedians that were working and still working and working through. There were two types of people when that pandemic hit. It was people that put their feet up and they're like, well, I can't do anything anyway.
Right.
And then there were people like, no, how can I utilize this? You know, with somebody like Andrew Schultz being the ultimate example of
And
somebody.
Tim.
And yeah, but just going, hey, man, I'm going to build a studio. I'm going to put out stuff. You know, me, I would not have gotten a Netflix special if it wasn't for the pandemic because I got COVID so early.
Right.
Like me and Michael Yo was like patient zero. Dude, Michael Yo got it the mid-March at Gotham, and that's when like the security guy Jimmy Big Balls almost died.
Yeah.
And like those guys were like, Jimmy was on a ventilator. They took him off. They gave him that medicine what's the medicine that people, it was like the controversial medicine.
Ivermectin?
Yes. And I guess Trump had said it worked and people freaked out and were like, no. And some doctors were like, but they gave it to him on Thursday. And they said I think he said he was hours away. He said if he fell asleep, he would have died. And they gave it to him. And from hours from when they gave it to him, he was like almost gone.
Wow.
And he started to come back after like 2 hours. But Michael Yo was at Gotham that weekend. So they both got it. Michael Yo almost went on a ventilator. He could have died. I got it the week later when the Utah Jazz Center, Rudy Gober, when I was laying in bed. And I just scroll through and he goes, hey guys, thanks for asking how I'm doing. Everything is fine with COVID. The only thing is I can't smell or taste. And that was like the first, him saying that was before it was a symptom.
Right.
And that night I woke up and I went and I smelled a candle that I couldn't smell. And I started smelling whiskey I couldn't smell. I woke my wife up, she's like, what the fuck? Here's the good news. The good news is when I got it, I would get in coughing fits at night, but it didn't do anything. And then I got the antibody. I had antibodies for it. And then I was able to go to states that were not affected and that were half capacity, even a quarter capacity, and work my hour.
Yeah.
And that made the hour so much better because I was thinking about doing the hour before it.
Right.
And dude, and if I would have done it before it, I couldn't see Netflix saying, yeah, because I know that the hour wasn't ready. Then I had 2 years or a year and a half when nobody was on stage and I was working and they were like, dude, this belongs here. They were like, this, because at first they said no before seeing it. And then they saw it and they go, this is good enough. This belongs here. So same thing with you. It's like, at first you're like, oh, great. I'm fucking making moves now. And nobody's gonna, and it's like, no, people are gonna, and if you were able to get podcast episodes out. So I think, listen, everything happens for a reason, but it's just the work. People always go like, man, you know, there's no such thing as really blowing up. Right. I mean, there is such thing as blowing up, but there's no such thing as like, man, you really stepped up. It's like, no, the work's done, dude. The work's been done. Like when you see an athlete or you see somebody, it's like, no, that's just years of reps, years of practice. You're doing the fucking work.
Yeah.
Man. Lazy doesn't win, dude.
What is that thing? It's like luck is like opportunity meets preparation or something 100%. Like that, where it's like that's all that stuff is, man. It's so funny too. I also got COVID in like the very beginning of like right in the like the week that New York shut down. I caught it then, and I didn't have any I didn't get sick besides smell and taste. But then I lost my smell and taste for 3 months. 3 full months of no smell, no taste. And it's truly one of the worst experiences of my life. Because, dude, not being able... Like, I'm such a person who loves a good drink and food. Like, I'm obsessed with, like, you know, a good meal.
Yeah.
So, dude, not being able to taste anything... I mean, you know, it ruins your life because you're like, I'm not even hungry because nothing. It's just textures. It's just like, it's such a terrible. And when that came back, it was like being able to see for the first time, you know? I'm like, oh my God.
That's terrifying, dude. I'll be honest with you. I was, my wife got it back in like 8 days, 9 days. I was about 9.5 days, but I was, the fear was my life's not going to be the same. If I can't taste booze or I can't taste a
lasagna,
a soda or a slice of pizza or anything that I really cherished that's gone forever. And there are people today that have not got it back, which is really fucked up.
Ryan Sickler still doesn't have his smell back, and he's tried everything. He's had like Rogan sent him to like 100 different people. He's tried everything, and what's terrifying
Musk
for him,
sent him to Mars.
Yeah, dude. Like he's tried everything to get it back, and it's plenty of doctors. And what's terrifying for him is like, he's got kids, so it's like he said there was a night where he fell asleep. He went to bed with his kids there, and the smoke alarm was going off, and he was like, I couldn't smell.
That's nuts.
Like, you know what I mean? Where you're like, that's an actual fear. Is like, he might not be able to smell smoke and burning. So it's like, so that's
gasoline and shit.
Like, all that stuff, dude.
Yeah, no, that's I didn't know that. I'm cool with him too. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
but he could taste.
Yeah, I think he could taste a little, but not as good as it was. Because once the smell does affect taste, so there's that.
I remember I tasted during that time. I tasted a Dorito. Well, first my wife goes, "Oh, that's a really nice wine, isn't it?" And I'm like, "No, this is fucking because whatever acidic thing was in that, it was just hitting my taste buds, but I wasn't getting the taste. So I'm going, Stace, this is terrible. She goes, Paul, that's a really good bottle. And then I tried a Dorito, and it tasted like I was eating paper, like a cardboard. Dude. So I really feel for somebody said, yeah, my uncle hasn't had taste in years, and
Brutal.
I'm like, that's fucking
brutal.
And that's why Chinese people are getting punched.
Doesn't that feel?
I'm kidding. I'm joking, guys.
Doesn't it feel like that was 20 years ago, though, too, at the same time? Like how long ago the pandemic was? Like it feels like such a lifetime ago. Also because it's like so much has happened. I've had a kid in the meantime, so it's like, it's like now that everything my whole life before him feels like a lifetime ago. But it is very strange where like, I literally, I was with a comic yesterday. I had like my winter coat on that I hadn't worn in a while, and I took a mask out of it. I'm like, oh yeah, you fucking remember these things? fucking disposable mask, like hilarious.
Like when you look back at shit we did, I remember when it first happened. Like I'm talking like the first night they were like, you have to stay in. We were like wiping down groceries. I was like taking wipes
Lysol.
and wiping stuff down that like wasn't even. It's like now that you think about it, it didn't make any sense. It made no sense that I would hand it to somebody but then wipe it or whatever. But yeah, man, it does feel long, doesn't it?
It feels like it just is like it was just a weird time, a weird shared experience we all have, man. But fuck it, we're past it,
We're past it, and
look at this, and now we're drinking our coffee. This is the perfect symbolism, isn't it? You're a Dunkin' guy, I'm a Starbucks guy. This is really, if you want to know our personalities in one
we
nutshell.
Should have fucked with people and just started with masks and talked about it as if. We just acted. We're like, dude, is everything all right? Have you left yet?
It's brutal.
Well, there's a couple of people in show business that still have. Has Howard Stern left his house yet? Or
I think he has like a studio in his house. Yeah, I don't think he's ever coming back. He's like full blown germaphobe.
I think that like once this happened, he was like just done with talking to people face to face, with shaking. I didn't get scared like that. Once I didn't get super sick. I'm like, okay. It's funny though. The people that didn't get super sick, they're like, they talk shit. They're like, dude, nah, it's not not me, dude.
It's not for me.
No, my antibodies. It's just a different body.
I kind of shook it off. You know what I mean?
It's just a different body.
Yeah.
So are you from? Because
Long Island.
Okay, that's where I was gonna say. I didn't know if you were from. You're a Long Island kid.
Yeah.
What part?
Way out in Suffolk County, out in Center Reach. So it's like 62 off the LIE, so like
is that near Hauppauge? How do I say it?
Hauppauge? Yeah, it's in that area. Yeah, it's like it's near like the like Port Jeff, like those like 15 minutes from Port Jeff.
And where do you live now?
I live in Queens. I've been in Queens since 2008. But
okay, you still have family in Long Island?
Yeah, I still have some family out there. Yeah, usually the Long Island's like you either get out of there when you're 18 or you never leave. Yeah.
Me and Giannis talk about that all the time. Long Islanders think it might as well be another state. I'm not joking.
Yeah,
when you get to like the mentality there, the everybody else. You ever talk to some from Long Island? They're like everything's crazy. Everyone else is crazy. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's nuts. We ain't going there. It's like its own fucking...
It's its own society, and it's weird because it has changed, because I remember when I went, like before I went to college, like all of my friends, it was like that time of like, 2004, 2005, so all that whole time was kind of, the main music was like that pop punk, like emo music, screamo music, like mosh pit kind of music and stuff, and then I went away, and everyone was like driving $2,000 Honda Civics that they spent $8,000 putting into to make it look like a,
Fast
like
and Furious.
Yeah, exactly. That was like the thing. And then I went away to college. I came back from college, everyone was in like Ford F-150s. They had chewing tobacco and they were listening to country music. Like everybody in Long Island suddenly became this like they became country fans, and they're like, this is how we relate. And you're like, country you guys live you live on a quarter acre of land. You know what I mean? It's like you're in the suburbs. You're not in the country. None of you know what it's like. You've never even seen a tractor. You know what I mean? It's so weird.
Yeah, and like wife beaters and what is it, like that Jersey Shore shit, but like tanning. But gyms are big, right?
Yeah,
guys are jacked. I always felt like Long Island had that techno shit, but I guess it changed.
EDM was bad. I loved like. Yeah, it definitely had that too. I just feel like the good stuff about Long Island is like food was always good, and the mentality with friends is kind of like that of Jersey, and I guess like maybe upstate New York and places where it's like you bust balls with the ones you love, and it's like a very like cutting.
Yes.
You're all shitting on it. Boston's the same way. You're all just shitting on each other, and that's why I feel like I do well in those rooms in Boston and Jersey, because it's that like some of those people that don't come from those areas when they try to do those rooms, the people go out to Long Island, they go out to Governors, like, that was a fucking nightmare. It's a shit show. It's a dog fight. And you're like, yeah, it's always a knife fight. That's like, you got to go up there and punch them in the face. And then they're like, okay, all right, you got my respect. Let's listen, you know?
I really think that's not that there's not ball busting out west, but it's an East Coast thing. The East Coast hanging with your friends. You show up. Me and Brett Ernst are doing this new thing now where every time we talk, we go, oh, because we always have like sayings, and the older you get, like I love the old man sayings, like if you come out of your house or like you see where you go, oh, there he is.
Yeah,
look who's back from the dead.
Yeah.
Look who decided to grace us with their presence. But it's like that mentality of like ball breaking, like look at his sneakers, this fucking guy.
Yeah, on the approach.
On the approach. I remember one time, even Kevin Ryan, this is like 5-6 years ago, he was walking down to the New York Comedy Club, and Foley and them just started busting his balls, and he's like, I didn't even get here yet. But out west, I think it's more of like, hey man, how you doing? Everything good? Even though it might be fake, it's like, hey man, is everything good? Dude,
I don't know
come do my shit. Come do my show. Dude, you're so funny, man.
Yeah, I don't know any West Coast ball busters at all. It's all East Coast, dude. All East Coast, like West Coast, they're all just it's a different energy. It's like respect each other. Even if it is fake, there's no like I remember even like some of the first comics I started talking to in New York City when I was doing comedy that weren't from New York City. I would like bust their balls and be like, "What? Are you all right, man? What the fuck? Do we have beef?" And you're like, "No, we're showing affection. This is how we have fun. We're having a good time, you know?"
Oh yeah, the sensitive kids from the East Coast would be like, "Yo, dude, is there like a problem?"
Yeah.
And they'd be like, "No, man, I fuck."
This is what it is.
Or you'd call your friend to talk about that.
Yeah.
No, dude, how the fuck, when I came up, was he fucking kidding me?
Yeah,
I'll fucking smack that kid. Like, no, dude, he actually said he liked you. He was joking.
Like, interesting.
But I think that's part of what we do. And I think that's part of why when we get on stage, we're able to kind of roll with it as long as somebody's not an asshole. And I do think, and this is not to be disrespectful towards West Coast comedians, because West Coast comedians, I know, I'll say that there's a misconception that West Coast comedians aren't that strong. No, a lot of them are fucking great. But I do think the way we grew up here, and I said this before, and it may sound crazy, Mike, I think the weather has a lot to do with when you wake up and it's 80 degrees every day, and the option of surfing and going to the beach is there every fucking day, and you walk outside and things are nice every day, it's going to make you a little softer. Where we wake up and we're like, dude, I got a shovel, it's sleeting.
Yeah, it's like wet rain, wet snow, you know what I mean? We're like, fuck.
Dude, wet snow has to equal a little more toughness.
Dude,
right?
Wet snow is one of the most demoralizing things. It's caked everywhere. It's like it's hard, it's heavy to get off. It's just then it freezes and it's ice the next day. You fucking slip going to your car. It's just
like going to your car is like a life threat. When you're just like...
Just that thing of when you like, you walk, you take that first step outside, you feel that freezing cold air and you're just like, fuck. Like it just immediately hits you where you go, this is going to be, it's a battle just to get to the next indoors, you know?
Yeah. I wanted to talk to you about something that you did because I thought you were ahead of the game on it, and I'm going to say that pandemic probably stopped it, but you were doing something that people that are doing it now are getting a lot of recognition for, but you were doing your own sketches, man. And I remember those, and I remember which you did like a handful of them, and one of them I was watching, dude, and I think I even hit you up on it. I'm pretty sure I did, or I saw you at a club, but one was so funny. I don't know if it was the one in the work office, but you just did one that was so funny, and I'm going, this is so fucking good. like now I look at what's going on the internet, and like that's the shit. It was like, are you thinking about doing more of that, or?
Well, I mean, I always enjoyed that. Was like you would go back to the thing of like, what do you do during the pandemic? Do you go, oh, we can't do stand up, so let's just chill? But for me, I was always like, I like doing things. I like just comedy. I like making comedy. It doesn't have to necessarily be stand up. So, like, you know, Brendan Sagalow and he lived 5 blocks from me or something. So it was a matter of like, let's make. First I started making a sketch every week, and then he was like, I got nothing to do, and I was like, let's start making sketches every week.
Yeah.
So I think we made a sketch we put out a sketch every week for, I think it was like 48 weeks in a row. We put out sketches, and it was like anywhere from like, you know, it could be a 3-minute thing to like a 1 minute, like,
Sure,
you
like
know,
a
when
quick,
reels started coming out. But it was a lot of work, dude, because it was a matter of like writing it, us shooting it, casting it, finding a location, and then me editing it. So it's like I was working like 40 hours a week on all of these things just to put them out, and you know, and most of them got like no views at all. But it was half of it was to keep us sane, the other half of it was to keep our friends sane, to cast them in fun stuff and everything, and just also to us to be like, can we do a new thing? This is like our SNL, but it's just one sketch. Can we just do this every single Monday rolls around? All right, what are we releasing next Monday in exactly a week from now? You know?
Yeah, no, dude. That's like. Did you hear what? Did you see the Stallone doc?
I haven't seen the doc. I mean, I know the story with Rocky. I like the script on it and stuff like that.
Did you see Tom? No, dude. It's really. I mean, it's inspirational. It's kind of sad too. Like when you find out like some of the things that motivated him and some of the family members. I don't want to give anything away, but like you see that like the relationship with his dad and the relationship with family and like what he was going through internally. But like when literally nobody would look at anything he wrote everything. But like him and his brother were like, let's just make a cowboy movie with like. They made like a cowboy with like real bullets and but like they just made a cowboy movie where they were like on horses doing something, and he's like, if this is the only thing that I ever did, at least I made something with my brother and we did something. And it's like, yeah, man, it's like you said something that struck a chord, staying sane, but also like you love comedy. Like, you got to go back to, like, sometimes people don't go back to why we do this.
Right.
And sometimes I even have to go back to it. And I'm like, yeah, okay, great, man. Like, look, money's great, and selling tickets and getting followers and building is a great thing. But at the end of the day, the reason why I did this for the first time ever was because I loved comedy and I had the ability to make people laugh.
Yeah.
And, like, go back to that shit. So, like, the fact that you were like, hey, we got nothing to do. Let's just get cameras and fuck around.
Yeah.
That's dude, Clerks.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's all of that stuff was so like to me, this dream of like working, and especially in comedy, I know it's like such a stand-up, such an individualistic thing and venture, but like for me, I am around and have access to all of like the funniest people on the planet, and there's nothing greater to me than it feels like to one day if I had like my own show where I was in a writer's room with all of my funniest friends and we were all writing things together. That to me seems like the absolute dream, because you know, stand-up can get pretty lonely, you know, especially the higher up you get, it gets more and more isolating. So it's like I'll always do stand-up, but like I love the idea of like making funny things with my friends. Seems like, I mean, the Happy Madison people, the Broken Lizard guys, all these guys where you're like, this seems like a this seems like but a lot of comics like the collaboration isn't a thing that they're interested in, the idea of collaboration, but when it comes to actually sacrificing, maybe like, hey, don't put in for spots on Tuesday night so we can all work on this thing, people are like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. You know?
No, that's true. People don't want to. It's a full sacrifice and it's a full commitment to really stick to it and be able to stay with it. I think that you're right, though. I think, dude, if I can get like 4 or 5 of my best friends and everybody was dedicated on the same page, and we're like, hey, man, we're going to like write this script and we're going to make this thing, or like you said, like the guys from Broken Lizard, or like those guys, Clerks, you know, $60,000 in their in family credit cards, and they made a black and white movie that changed everything. It's like, dude, that's like the ultimate dream. And you also said something that Sylvester Stallone said. He goes, dude, the bigger you get, man, he goes, you think when you get, you know, he goes, dude, it gets lonely out there. And listen, I mean, both of us have a lot of work to do with stand-up to get to, you know, we keep going up and up and up. That's part of the game. But yeah, it's like, it's weird. That's why it's lonely, but it's not as bad for us. And the reason why is because we have families. Now, what sucks is if you're running around and you don't. And that's how, and I know, like, people are like, oh, here Virzi goes talking about how family structure. But, dude, it really, man, like, I could never imagine not. I could never imagine having this being, the only
the
thing.
only thing. Well, and and Tim Dillon said something to me that I found like, we were in our conversation just like pretty profound, where he goes, wealth and like ultimate success now is not money, it's time. So it's like, it's like, you can make millions of dollars or whatever, but if you're on the road every single weekend of every single year and you're not living any sort of life, he's like, that is not, that person is not as rich as the person who makes half that amount of money, but has the freedom to do what they want. Having the freedom and the ability to do what you want, when you want, that is wealth.
Yeah, Tim was saying that the other day. We had him in studio for Bone to Pick, me and Bobby, and he was talking about that, and it's true. I was talking to my manager, and he was just like, yeah, it's like comedy is what we do. Comedy is what I do. It's not who I am. And when it becomes who you are and it's everything, then that's... Because now, look, comedy has been... We were talking about this before. And I hate to say this, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to any place that gave me a platform or you a platform, but if I'm being honest now, the comedy special has been completely diluted. The comedy special is been, unless, look, if you've been doing it 15, 20 years and you put the work in, like, yeah, that's something. But now it's kind of like pick and choose this one, or I like that person's podcast, they have a special. I like that person's sketch, they have a special. Now it's almost like, dude, I was coming up and there was like 20 people maybe that had a special.
Oh yeah. It was
now,
very
how
rare.
many came out this year?
I think so. Oh my God. I bet well over 100. I mean, here's the thing. It's like special is almost kind of just a replacement term now for like, long set. Yeah. Or not even necessarily, you know what I mean? It's like and that's why for my special, I don't mean to shoehorn a plug in here or anything,
go ahead.
but
You should.
But for mine, I had to come up with like multiple ways to make it unique. So like the first thing that I thought,
Helicopter, you came in helicopter?
Yeah. Actually, Seinfeld did that in his thing. Remember, he like jumped into the river or something like that from a helicopter, so I couldn't do that. But
I was joking. That's funny. It's already been done.
Yeah. Literally everything's already been done.
Seinfeld's like, we need something new.
Yeah. He literally jumped into the water from a helicopter. But I think like multiple ways I had to try to make it, unique and not just, 1 hour, here's this. So the first thing I thought of was like, for people, at least at my level, and for most of us, the idea of the hour is dead. You know what I mean? Like for like for Burr and for all the guys that are up on like another level, that they have an audience that demands an hour from them, 100%. But I talked to somebody at Netflix. They said the average watch time of an hour Netflix special is 24 minutes. So it's like already, and you see the TikTokification of the world, all the things where everything's getting smaller, the attention span's getting smaller. So I was like, I want to go back to like the things that. For me, it was like when I grew up, like watching like Comedy Central Presents, watching Premium Blends, watching those things where you're watching short sets is what got me into so many comedians that I would have never found out otherwise. So I was like, I'm going to do... So what I did was I did all 4 rooms of the Comedy Cellar in one night.
That's great.
And I decided to boil that down. And I did it like I didn't headline them. It was just a showcase set. So it's just the audience doesn't know who I am. I'm on a lineup with other people. It's,
really?
So it's just, there was no added lighting to it.
Dude, I did not know that. I'm glad you brought that up. And so you did 4 different sets.
I did four sets, but I distilled the entire thing down to 20 minutes. So the entire thing is 20 minutes.
Wow.
Which I know probably irks you because it's not, because I know you're like, you have the old school like hour mentality.
It doesn't. Listen, I worked hard to build an hour, but what you're doing now that's like some new level shit, and I'll never knock that, dude. I mean, that I never even knew that you did that.
Well, yeah. So what I did was I have an hour, and I was like, best case scenario, this blows up, and then I have to tour. And then I don't have new time. And I'm like, I'm not as prolific as Louis and Burr where I can do every year, here's a new thing, where it's like, that's going to take me 2 years. And I also realize it's like, you put out a special, and you put out all the clips from the special, and then you have nothing to put out joke-wise for 2 years unless you're posting podcasts and crowd work clips. So you're like, what do I do? So I was like, let me shoot this, put this out. Then in next year, early next year, I'll take 20 more minutes from that out, and I can keep replacing it and putting it out. So for this, I was like, I had this idea. I was like, I'm going to shoot all 4 rooms of the Cellar in one night because, again, most biggest comedy club in the world, most famous club in the world. I want to show people how different all 4 rooms are and what it's like for a comic and what it's like for an audience member to go. And I pitched this to like multiple production companies, and every single one of them were like, love the concept, don't know how we could shoot it. We'd have to add so much more lighting. The rooms don't match up. It's going to cost well over $100,000 to shoot this thing. And they're like, you don't understand it. It's going to look so different. We'd have to add all these lights to make them even look the same. And I'm like, no, see, you're missing the point entirely.
You don't want it to look the same.
I'm like, the fact that it looks so different is exactly the point of it. And the fact that it's like, we added no extra lighting. It was just like guerrilla warfare. I have like 3 killers who came on, James Webb, who shot like Mark Norman and Sam Morrill's Netflix special, and Toby McMullen from All You Garbage, and my old podcast producer, Nicole Lyons, who just were like, did me favors, and they were just the camera, like literally just set up 3 cameras in the room. The second I got done, broke it all down, ran to the next room. Then we did all 4 rooms back-to-back nights. And then, so we did 7 sets total. And then had to, and then I decided, as if that wasn't enough, Paul, I decided because of the fact that none of the production companies were interested, that I was like, I'll just do it myself. So then I decided to direct and edit my own special on top of that, which is, I felt like was a cool thing, because it's like, I know Louis done it. I know Bo Burnham's done it, but I don't know anybody else who's like edited and directed their own.
How long
special.
did that editing process take you?
So I shot it when my kid was 10 weeks old. So I shot at the end of January, and it came out 3 weeks ago. So it took months and months and months.
So get an editor.
Yeah. So I will never do that again. I'll never ever do it again. But it was cool to at least say I did it. But it was like, because I think it was because this project was so specific, I needed to do it because I saw it so clearly, and I had these cool ideas of transition shots that I wanted to do and that stuff. So I just wanted to boil it down. And so far the feedback has been great, and I'm happy that people like it. And what I've enjoyed the most is people say like both they want more, and that like the pacing of it is great. So that's
that's all you could ask, dude.
Yeah.
Leave them enough to where they want more, but you don't give too much. That's a great idea. I did not know that you did that. I mean, I think that now in today's thing, you can do things like that yourself. It does not cost nearly as what it used to. No. Comedy specials back then used to cost well into the, I would say between 80 and 130,000. Now you can get the same quality for less. I'm actually going to be working with James and Jason.
Oh, he's awesome.
For my next one, which I'm shooting February 24th at the Den Theater in Chicago.
Nice.
But,
beautiful venue.
Yeah, but no, man, it's all about creating your own shit, doing it your own way. I love that idea that you did that, and I think that it's because look, times change, dude.
And and here's the thing too, it's like and because this project was so personal to other people, I had other people after it was shot that were like, oh, you could put it on our YouTube channel because we're like putting out a lot of specials, and then we have a lot of subscribers, and it'll get a lot of views and stuff. And the part of me was like, listen, if like Netflix or HBO is interested, that would be one thing, but I'm like, for me to get a ton of views, I don't want to point people for something like this, for a project like this, is this personal that I worked this hard on. I'm like, I don't want to point people to someone else. You know what I mean? I want to be like, find it on my channel. Even if it gets less views, at least it's like, everyone's coming towards me, and I'm getting more subscribers from it, and more people are like seeing my. I'm sick of like us doing all this hard work and then giving it to somebody. Again, if it's Netflix, if it's HBO, obviously it's a different story. That's a whole other thing. But if it's just like a popular YouTube channel, you're like, oh, here, take all the hard work I did, and then I'm gonna drive any followers that I have to your channel, and you're like, no, it should be the opposite. They should be coming to us.
No, I love that, dude. You have that independent artist mentality, and like, for the first time, like I'm doing, like, I don't know. I mean, people will look at this one.
Yeah.
When I do it, people will look at this one, and we're obviously going to talk to everybody. But like, my mentality is I'm putting up my own money.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to have a big say in how things are edited and how it's going to be put. Not that, by the way, Netflix gave me a lot of free. Netflix gave me a lot of. They let me do what I wanted to do.
Right.
So I'm not going to say anything about that. But when it comes out, I'm going to be in control of.
Of
okay,
course.
the budget, how I want things like definitely done, lighting, all that shit. I'm going to fucking put this out myself, and I'm just going to give it to the fans that want to see more. And I love that they direct them to my channel.
Yeah.
Because
you're doing the hard work, you should get the feedback of that, because there'll be times where people go to a channel that's, again, let's say the other side of it is they'd argue, it's like, oh, we have 500,000 or 1 million subscribers, so that people, all these people that wouldn't know about you, and they're like, yeah, but then they're going, oh, I like this guy, and I found him on this channel, so they associate you always with that channel, so they're going to keep going back to that channel to find more people that they like. They might go follow you, they might not. They might just be like, I hope more stuff from this guy gets posted on this channel. It's like, people are, if you ever like go to click on, even if there's something you see on Instagram or whatever, and you're like, oh, I like this, and then you click it, and then it makes you have to do 1 or 2, even 2 more steps to be like, well, sign up for this, and then you can see, and you're like, I'm out. I'm already out. Like, it has to be like a direct act. You click the link, it starts playing. Otherwise, I'm out. You know,
if you pay $3 right now, you get the next 20 seconds.
Yeah,
dude, that's a tough.
All that stuff, and it's like, yeah, sign up for this and do. It's like YouTube. The good part about it is it's just immediate access, and like I said, I'll shoot something in the spring of next year, and I'll be able to just keep putting. By the time, so I'm basically getting like 3 mini specials out of what would be 1 full hour special, and I'm spreading it out. And all the way, all those things are getting tighter, like you said with the pandemic. Like all that other material is getting tighter, and I'm able to constantly replace it and have fresh stuff for the road.
That's the next thing I wanted to bring up, dude, because I'm going on the road, and during this tour, and I went everywhere, and the crowd knew it, and I even talked about it with the crowd. I did not do 1 minute from my Netflix special on the road. And a lot of people have mixed feelings about it, like as far as comedians.
Sure.
And dude, I figured out what the right answer is. And some great comedians were telling me too. They were like, dude, people have been burned. Okay. And I went out there and I got an ovation because people were like, dude, I just saw your special and you did not do 1 minute. And it's like, yeah, because it needs to be in the bank and you need to go there and give them. Now listen, the first leg of the tour after a special may be the process of getting it. You'll still be funny. It'll still be a good show. But then as you go on, dude, and you get it really tight and you add and you're like, oh, I have pretty much a new. They're going, dude, I came to Virzi's show. I loved his Netflix special and everything was new. Instead of, yeah, we did like 20 new minutes.
Yeah.
And then it's like, no, so you're smart to be able to put this out. And then if you go to fucking St. Louis next week, you're going to be like, oh shit, dude, he's working.
I just headlined a show for the New York Comedy Festival, and I did a whole new hour, which felt great, and which is great because people like literally the special was a week old at that point. But you know, it's funny. I opened for Tim at Carnegie Hall for the festival, which was unbelievable. And Tim murdered, and he just, you know, as he does. But there was I don't want to give him away or anything, but there was another comedian that was performing at Carnegie Hall that week, I should say, and I saw some of the people coming out. And
they knew the jokes
and hearing the reviews, and they were like, yeah, I'd heard a lot of that before. You know, like there was a lot of like people.
You
were
sure that wasn't the same night, Mike?
Yeah. People were.
So no, but
don't Google it.
I know you're trying to be same month. I think.
It was like a different story from a different time.
It's like an hour and a half before.
Shit.
No, but dude, here's the thing, dude. You're 100% right, and I've heard that outside of comedy clubs. I heard, you know, I would never mention names, but I remember years ago, I heard people walk out of the cellar and they go, yeah, man, we saw that guy 2 years ago, maybe over 2 years ago, and he did the same thing. That was really lame. And I remember that stuck with me because that was somebody that works at a, you know, premier comedy club in the country, showcase room in the country. And people are going like, I heard that. Now, I don't mind, you know, you do it for like a year, you know, you're working a new hour, you're working some of the jokes, but then all of a sudden things need to change up a little bit, especially if you're churning out some new material. But yeah, I remember I did Carnegie years ago, and the acoustics are wild in there. Right?
It's so wild, and the vertical. It's not built for.
No, it's not.
Like Louis C.K. was there to see Tim, and him and I were talking after the show, and he's just like, it's not built for comedy at all.
No,
he's like, it's so weird because they say 1/3 of the audience is actually in that top bowl up there. So even though there's 3,700 people, the majority of them are up there. So it's like it's very. I mean, I've never looked so. I look at you telling jokes to God. You know what I mean?
You mean the majority of people in the thing are high?
Are 1/3 of the audience are in that top balcony, and then on the bottom there's only I think like 800. Like it's a weird proportion. It's disproportionately way up high, which is very strange to to play to that because if you're doing this, you look crazy. If you're looking down here, they're only seeing the top of your head. But it was the acoustics in that place are unreal.
No, that the whole thing
so
is
beautiful.
I just could never, and this is not to knock anybody. This is just my personal thing. I could never do a venue like that and have people leave saying I've heard that stuff before. That's just for. I would almost like if the New York Comedy Festival ever said, "Hey, do you want it?" I'd be like, "Yeah, you know what? Give me a year."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing wrong with like coming out and being like, "Oh shit, that was brand new shit that killed." I'd rather wait. And I think like what Chris Rock says, he does one every 2.5 years or every. I think just waiting because here's the thing: what's the rush?
Right.
There's really
the problem for I think there's two problems with that or two anxieties with that. Number one is the constant need for content.
Yes.
That has like the second you put a clip up, great, it does well. When's the next one? And if you don't put a clip up for 2 weeks, now all of a sudden the algorithm's gonna ding you because you're not playing for so it's like you become a slave to this. Also, I think if you are someone maybe in Chris Rock's position, and it's like, oh, I'm only putting out a new special every 2.5 years. I guess he's kind of like goated at this point, but like for the most part, when you're in that level, it's like, it's that Eminem line of like, once you get it, hold on to it because you don't know, like hold on to it as long as you can because you don't know when it's going to go away. So it's like that thing of like, I have to keep putting out more hours and keeping this great because if I go away for 3 years, when I come back, I might not be in the conversation anymore.
Listen, it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? You wait a little longer and it's a better product, but you wait a little longer and people are like, oh, well, I've been watching this TikTok person now. So it's like, you know what I mean? But I would rather, for me, it's like, I would rather everything coming out just be like, I'm kind of getting to this thing where like, yeah, the algorithm is cool, but to be a slave to it, like you just said, I'd rather be like, no, man, this is a good clip. I'm going to put this out. I'm going to put out some other things and hopefully something catches. But instead of being like, I gotta, it's like, it's kind of nuts.
Yeah, it was hard to get like, especially getting a repeatable thing. That's why, it's like, and I think it's also that East Coast mentality too. It's like for me, doing crowd work was always an easy thing for me. So it's like I don't rely on it, but it is a thing of like, I just love that it's become, and not only has it become such a thing with online because we don't want to give away all of our jokes from our hour, we want people to see us live, so people supplement with crowd work clips. But it's like crowd work to me was always like, it was almost like, it used to be like frowned upon crowd work because it was like, I remember people like, I remember when I started, like if you did crowd work, people would talk shit because they're like, yeah, he doesn't have any jokes, so he's got to talk to the crowd. You know what I mean? So it's like, for me, it's like crowd work was always easy, but even crowd work clips, you can't rely on crowd. Like you can't be like, I'm going to put up a crowd work clip.
You just made me think of something. It'd be funny if a comic just got up, right? And it was like everyone's clapping because like people know him, kind of, and they're like, "Oh man, fuck you, dude! I had a day, dude." So anyway, dude, what's going on over here?
Literally have nothing.
Just like it starts out like, "Oh, he's about to say something," and then just be like, "Oh, so you guys like listen? If a good crowd moment, I'll take,
of course,
like a real one,
sure.
But just being like Detroit, oh, you're fucking, you're wearing a bulletproof vest and then clip, it's like
it's brutal. Some of them are so brutal, but I was lucky that I found a repeatable thing like a couple years back where I was in LA, and this is how this shit, and I think it's because it goes back to the thing during the pandemic where I was making something every single week. So I was constantly like, my brain was wired to be like, what can I shoot? So anytime I went somewhere, I was like, what can I shoot while I'm on the road? I was in LA for a week. I go, what can I shoot when I'm in LA? I just paid $35 for a fucking salad, and I was losing my mind at how unbelievably angry I was at that. And so I just made this video that I wanted to make fun of people that live here but still pretend like LA is awesome. So I did this thing like I did like welcome to LA, and then it was like like I played both parts of like a tourist coming and then being like with a smile but saying pretty much roasting the city, and then that kind of did well. But I thought it was just like a one-off thing, and then one person was like in the comments, one person goes, you should do one of these for Florida. And I was like, oh fuck yeah, I could do that for so many cities. So I did welcome to Florida, and then it got like 15 million views and like blew up. And then for the next year, I was just doing welcome to St. Louis, welcome to Cleveland, welcome to Ohio. I mean, I did every single major city, and they were all blowing up. And I stumbled into this algorithm hack because first off, it's like, it's my writing. So it's not like, I'm glad that the thing that was blowing up for me and going viral wasn't like me dancing. You know what I mean? It was like, here's a thing that I'm doing, but it's my writing. It's me, my kind of comedy where I'm like roasting and undercutting and making fun of something passive aggressively. And it also showed me like where my fans were, where I'm like, oh fuck, like Chicago, there's a shit ton of people, and like Charlotte, North Carolina, there's a shit ton of people who agree with or this. So it was a fun way to kind of like do that and make a repeatable thing. So then that felt, and even that I did that for like a year, and then I go, I'm kind of running out of fun cities to do, because once you do all the major cities, it's like it starts to be every city's the same. It's like it's boring, and there's a lot of potholes, and it's just like there's not really much to talk about. But it's hard to find a repeatable thing. But when you do and it hits, it feels, that algorithm, when it's shining down on you, it feels pretty fucking good.
No, dude. When things start, when you start getting recommended, that's the thing. Here's the last thing I wanted to talk about before we get out of here. This has been a good one because it's going fast. But your wife, does she because I remember I met her once at New York Comedy Club, and I remember like how just cool and supportive she was, which is so key. Does she like give you input, or is she? Because my wife is different. My wife, I'll be like, my wife is like so like cerebral with everything that she'll just be like, yeah, no, that's funny. And I'm like, is it?
Yeah. Then laugh.
Well, yeah. But she's more of like looking at it like as like my brand, our family.
Sure.
Like she's looking at the whole thing under the umbrella. So she's kind of looking at it as like a business. Are you in the same situation, or is she just like, Mike, you're gonna do your thing, do your thing?
I think I mean, she was there. We started dating before I ever did comedy because we met in college. So it was like that. I was lucky enough to, and she was at my first comedy show. You know what I mean?
My wife was at mine too.
So it's like they know, they've seen our entire evolution. They've seen when we were bad. You know what I mean? And they've seen the come through. And like, there'll be times where I'll kind of like run things by her and stuff. But I think she always tries to like let me find the voice of, you know what I mean? She never is like, instead of this tag, why don't you say this? But if I go, hey, I don't know, I tried to do this thing and it didn't get a laugh, she'll be like, well, yeah. You know what I mean? She'll be like, you go try that on your own and good luck and see if it works. But she's very good at, I guess she's a big supporter. You know what I mean? She's definitely like my biggest supporter, which always feels great. And she's also a person, we're both only children, so she also loves alone time too, especially now with the kids. Like the kid goes down to sleep. Sometimes I was like, I don't have any spots tonight, blah, blah. And she's like, just go, get out there, go network, get into the city, go. So she can like watch TV or something.
She's got 3 episodes left.
Yeah. She's like, I gotta catch up on Housewives. For the love of God, go run a set.
You got a late one tonight?
Yeah. You sure? You sure you don't have something in the calendar?
Mike, get on that midnight. You're there anyway.
She puts it in the calendar for me. She's like, but it was awesome when like, when I did the Tonight Show, like getting her to come with me to the Tonight Show. Like, you can bring one guest with you or whatever. It's like bringing her was like, of course, like she was there. She saw it from fucking the college cafeteria I performed in up until then. And it's like, and it was so cool.
Congratulations on the Tonight Show too. Yes.
Thank you, man. And that felt great. And that was a thing where I was like, I gotta be honest, it sounds like such an asshole thing to say, whatever. I wasn't nervous because it was like, again, they're a hot crowd, and I thought that part of my life was over. Doing the late night set was like, I haven't been tapped for that they're not looking for me anymore. And then when I did, I was like, well, this material I know is gonna kill. So it's the only time I was nervous even a little bit was like literally the second before right behind the curtain, in that silence of just waiting to come back from like their commercial break. That was the only time. But for the most part, like everybody, I specifically made myself live in the moment. And then Jimmy Fallon was like, couldn't have been nicer to both me, and then after the show, they invited me over to the couch. I was sitting on the couch, talked to him for a couple, and then when we go to leave, he usually goes right into his like dressing room, and he went like right up to my wife and was like, I just want to say congratulations, your husband killed it, we'll have him back, like you should be very proud, like just give her this whole nice thing that he didn't have to do at all. And you're like, fuck, man, that was a very cool moment for all of us.
That's awesome. That's where we're ending, because and you're with the woman from before you did this. That's all you could ask for. Mike Feeney, thank you so much for being here. Please plug all this stuff. Please plug your stuff.
At I am Mike Feeney on all social media. Mike Feeney, A Night at the Comedy Cellar, on my YouTube channel right now, youtube.com/Mike Feeney Comedy. If you like it, leave a comment, share it. Jared Fried does a great thing. He goes, our currency now, everyone goes, we give away free specials, right? And he go, this is the new, and I just keep stealing it from Jared, so it's credit to him. This is the new currency. He's like, if you go like it, if you watch it and you give it a thumbs up, that's like tipping us $1 essentially. That's like the equivalent, because it helps the algorithm. If you leave a comment, that's like the equivalent of like $5. If you share it with one friend, that's like $10. But if you share it in the group chat to your other friends after you watch it and you like it and all that stuff, that's like $50. That's like giving us $50 because you made all 5, 6, 10 more people watch it, and now they have 5 more, and all that. That's kind of how that all spreads. So if you do like it, do any of those things, and also there is an option to tip, so you can actually directly give me money if you want. But but I don't care about that.
Check out his special Night at the Comedy Cellar.
Night at the Comedy Cellar.
Guys, check out my shows. I want to thank everybody also who has been buying tickets for the Den in Chicago. I'll be shooting my next special there February 24th. Looks like the second show is almost sold out. It's getting packed. The first one is, I think, halfway there, and we have until late February. So thank you guys for that. And if you are doing nothing New Year's Eve, one show, Gramercy Theater, 8 p.m. We're going to be there New Year's Eve. You could get home by 10. You could be in bed by 10:30. Okay, you went out, you had drinks. you had a good show, you had a good time, and you're home with a glass of wine ready to watch the ball drop, or you stay in the city and turn into a mess. You can do that too. Either way, I'll be doing it at 8 o'clock, Gramercy. And for more dates, we have more dates coming in 24. I'm going to Jersey. I'm going to Mohegan Sun. We have a bunch of stuff going. Go to paulvirzi.com. Check out the special on Netflix, Nocturnal Admissions, and Bone to Pick with Bobby Kelly. Anything better? We are crushing it for BetMGM. Me and Burr are I'm ahead of the book. And of course, the Virzi Effect. Please hit the subscribe button on all. Rate and review the show, and get these podcasts everywhere you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify. Mike, thank you for being here.
Thanks, buddy.
Until
Appreciate
next week, guys, we are out.